Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today I'm going to be sharing some of my project pan tips with you. I know a lot of us right now are kind of gearing up for our 2021 project pans, and so hopefully these will be some good tips to kind of keep in mind as you are thinking about which products to include, how to kind of stay motivated in your next year's project pan, all those things. And it's been a while since I've done a project pan tips video, so I wanted to kind of survey you guys and find out what were kind of your biggest project pan struggles and hangups right now. And so I did ask on my YouTube community tab and on my Instagram stories, and a bunch of you guys responded, so I'm going to be keeping a lot of those things in mind in these tips. So let's go ahead and get into it. So my first tip I think is a really important one, and it's going to look different for everybody, but this is I think what is going to set you up for a successful project pan, and that is to choose your items strategically. I think that this is so important because once upon a time, I actually did not get project panning. I didn't like it. When I first started my channel, I did some project pans for a little while, and at the end of those project pans, I remember saying, I don't really feel like it makes sense for me because I feel like I'm always neglecting the majority of my collection so that I can use these products, and I'm getting bored, and it just doesn't really make sense for me. And so I kind of took a break from project panning for a little while, or at least panning makeup. And I came back to it in like 2018, and that was when I think I really started to get into a groove with it and to figure out what works for me and how to pick a good balanced mix of products for my project pan. There's a few different types of products that I like to consider and prioritize when I am selecting my products. So first, I like to prioritize products that are maybe getting old or that I think might expire in the near future. Those are ones that I like to make sure I'm focusing on. Another category of products is maybe not necessarily old products, but things that I tend to neglect. So for me, that is like liquid glitter shadows, like the Stila glitters. I learned with those, because those can dry out quickly. Now I have one from e.l.f. I put that in my project pan even though it's not old at all, because I know it's something that I forget to use. Even though I like it, I forget to use it, and I wanted to start panning it before it gets old. So there's products like that. And then I also like to mix in some easier products to pan, products that I know I'm going to see consistent progress on, that are going to kind of keep me motivated. And they're things that of course I want to use up. I'm not just putting them in for the sake of putting in an easy product, but making sure there's a balance between challenging products and easy products, old products and products I'm likely to neglect whether they're old or not. And also, another really important thing is to make sure that you are only including products that you actually like. Don't try to pan products that you hate. Sometimes I will pan things that I maybe don't necessarily love, but that I can find a way to use them that I do like. But if it's a product that I absolutely can't stand, I'm not going to enjoy having that in my project pan, and I should probably just declutter it. So those are some things to keep in mind when you're selecting your project pan items. Another thing to keep in mind though is how many items do you want to be focusing on at a time. For me, 10 is kind of like the magic number. I feel like that's enough products that I can put in probably one thing per category of my collection if I want to, or I can just have a good mix of different types of products to focus on. Some people prefer smaller project pans, like maybe a 5 pan. So it's really up to you, and if it's your first project pan, you're probably gonna have to do some trial and error, but being strategic with the products that you select is very important, because if you're only picking really challenging products like blushes and lipsticks, eyeshadows, you might not see much progress, and then you might start getting discouraged. So moving on to my next few tips, the number one struggle that people said that they were having with project panning was how to not neglect the rest of your collection while you're focusing on project pan items. Because this is definitely a trap that I've fallen into, where I'm so focused on panning my project pan items, and I'm enjoying using those products, but I'm not using the rest of my collection. So it's like, what's the point? So one way that you can kind of solve this is to actually schedule days that you're just going to use whatever products you want. It could be maybe the weekends, but actually setting aside days where you are intentionally taking a break from your project pan items. Another thing you could do is, once you have hit your goal on a product in your project pan, you've used something up or you've hit pan on something, you can reward yourself by letting yourself just use whatever you want in your collection the next day. Another tip that I've shared before, but I'm going to share it again because it's been so helpful for me, is to set a usage goal for each of your items. So at the start of each month, I set myself a goal for how many times I want to use each of my Project Pan items. Certain products, it's realistic to set a goal to use it 15 times in a month. Other products, maybe it's only 5 times. If it's something like an eyeshadow, I like to switch that up often. So this is how I make sure that I'm actually making progress each month. But this also helps with the issue of feeling like you're neglecting the rest of your collection, because let's say I set the goal to use my Wet n Wild blush 15 times this month. I tend to do my makeup probably 6 days a week. So 6 times 4 is 24. 24 minus 15. That leaves me 9 days of the month to use any other blush in my collection. So I am still seeing lots of progress on this blush, but I'm also able to use other blushes so that they're not just sitting in my drawer expiring while I'm focusing on just this one. So that, I think, is a great way to A, make sure that you're still seeing good progress on your items, but also to give yourself permission, I guess. I mean, not that you need permission to use whatever you want, it's your stuff, but it makes me feel like I have permission to use other things when I want to, then I don't have to use that same thing every day of the month. I know for some people that can start to make it feel like a chore, so I know that tip is probably not for everybody, but that has helped me a ton. It helps keep me from getting bored. It motivates me because I keep a notebook in front of me with my list of each product I'm working on that month, and then every day after I finish my makeup, I will draw a tally mark under each product that I used that day. Some days I only used 2 of the products, some days I used every single product, just depends on my mood, but it feels really good to draw that tally mark. If you want to make it into a fun game, you could, get like some cute stickers if you're motivated by that kind of thing, and put yourself a little sticker under each item that you used. That could be really fun. So yeah, it's just have fun with it. Project painting is meant to be fun, so if that sounds like it would not be fun for you, don't do it. But also another good way to keep from getting bored of your products is to find different ways to use them. So last year is probably last summer, so it's been a while, probably not the best quality video, but I will link it below. I shared a bunch of new ways to use your Project Pan items, ways you might not have thought of before, to get more progress on your items without necessarily using them for their intended purpose. So definitely check out that video. I'm sure there are many more ways you can multitask your products that I didn't share in that video, but some new things that I've been doing. One is, so I'm working on this pencil liner from Jordana, and a great way to get more use out of a black pencil liner, or also a black like potted liner, you could do this with too. Use this as your eyeshadow base. Sounds super scary, and it definitely is a little scary to, if you're not used to wearing black eyeshadow, to have just like solid black all over your eyelid, but I literally drew this all over my eyelid and kind of up into my crease, blended it out a little bit with my finger, and then I topped it with one of the shadows from the Urban Decay Stoned Vibes palette. Works great with any kind of shimmery shadow, glittery shadow. It completely transforms the shade. So the shade that I used from Stoned Vibes was like the kind of medium purple shimmer shade, and it ended up looking more almost like silver with this underneath. So it looked really cool. It was a very smoky look, very dramatic and sultry, but really fun, and it gives me a completely different look than anything else I'd be able to achieve with like just one of my eyeshadows in my collection. And it would work with any other color of eye pencil as well, or if you have jumbo pencils or eye crayons that you're trying to use up, just have fun with it, experiment with them, find different ways to use them. That's another new tip I've been using. Another thing I've been doing, I have this e.l.f. matte liquid shadow in the shade Soft Beige in my Project Pan right now. I actually don't use this as an eyeshadow most of the time. Typically I will use it as a cream blush or bronzer. It's sort of a medium, sort of rosy beige, so I feel like it almost works as like a peachy blush in a way, or as a bronzer. That's why I've been getting a lot more use out of this than I would if I was just using it as an eyeshadow, just because when I'm, dotting this all over my face, I'm obviously using more product than if I'm just putting like a few dots on my eyelids. So get creative, have fun. With lipsticks, one tip that I've been using a lot this year, because I've been trying to use up a lot of lip products this year and I have been pretty successful. Use your lipsticks as cream blush. This works with most lipstick formulas, both like bullet lipsticks and liquid lipsticks. If it's a very glossy lipstick or kind of a stickier formula, it may not work. Like with my red apple lipstick, I haven't really been able to do this. But with most lipsticks, this is a great technique. You'd be surprised how many new blush options you have in your collection if you start using your lipsticks as blushes. A lot of people said they were struggling to feel motivated to put on makeup if they're, you know, staying home or wearing a mask or whatever. With the pandemic, I know a lot of us aren't really leaving our houses very often, and it may feel kind of pointless to put on makeup. Another thing though, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. Like, you don't have to do a full face of makeup every day. You could just put on a few products. Like, I remember last year when I was panning a blush, I wouldn't wear makeup every day, but I would apply that blush pretty much every day, even when I wasn't wearing makeup. But it was a fun way to just add a little bit of color to my cheeks, or, you know, if you're panning like a lip gloss, you know, you could just apply that. You don't have to be wearing a full face of makeup to use one or two products just for fun. So maybe even on no makeup days, you could still try to incorporate some of those products. And another tip is to keep your project pan items in a spot where you're actually going to see them and remember to use them. Maybe you could keep a basket on your vanity or your bathroom counter, wherever you get ready, of those products. You could designate one drawer of your makeup storage to those items. Another way to make sure you're using them if you're not necessarily sitting down and doing a full face of makeup every day is to keep certain products on your bathroom counter, or if you're getting ready quickly in the morning, like after you brush your teeth, maybe you could just apply a little bit of that blush or, you know, eyeshadow, whatever, without actually committing to doing like a full face of makeup. Try setting them out in different places. You could try keeping them in your purse if you're on the go and you think you'll use them that way. So where you set out your products, where you store your products can really make a big difference. So I wanted to show you guys my notebook where I keep track of my project pans. So I just bought this little notebook from Target, I think at the beginning of this year. And this is where I've been documenting all of my project pans each month. So here's my November spread. I have each item listed. I wrote down my usage goal, and then I just kept a tally of the number of times I used each thing. That way at the end of the month I can see, okay, I made this much progress on my Jordana contour stick this month. So that is how many times I need to use this to see that amount of progress. So it's a great way to kind of understand how quickly or how slowly you can make progress on things. And it also just keeps me accountable. So I definitely recommend keeping some sort of journal or notebook of your project pans, especially if you're doing more than one project pan. I also have a skincare project pan going on. This one I'm not tracking my usage, so I don't need to be as detailed with it, but I've just kept a list of everything that I have in the project. I've crossed things off that I've used up. I've added new things that I've rolled in. Then I also have a page for my 1 month 1 palette. I also track my usage for this. I'll write down each shade and just tally the number of times that I've used it. I also like to keep track of each look that I do. So yeah, this notebook has been very helpful in my project pan endeavors this year. My final tip is to know when to give up. So a few signs that it's time to give up on a product. If you're tired of using it, if you've grown to hate the product, it may be time to roll it out, or maybe even declutter it. If the product has gone bad, if the smell has changed, if the texture has changed, I think those are kind of the telltale signs that it's time to move on. Just because you put something in your project pan does not mean you have to keep it in there if you're no longer enjoying it. You can always switch things up. If you're feeling really just like unmotivated and discouraged with your project pan, start fresh, start over. Take all the products out, pick a new set of products, and just start over. Who says you can't do that? I mean, I feel like we get so focused on like these arbitrary rules of panning. Project pan is meant to be fun and nothing else. So if it's not fun, probably means you need to stop, maybe reconsider, pick some different products. Like I said, if it's your first project pan or you're kind of just getting started with panning, it's likely that there's going to be some trial and error at first. Because for me, like I said, I didn't really enjoy panning when I first started. It took me a little while to figure out what kinds of products made sense for me to pan, how to strike a balance between difficult and easy products, how to strike a balance between my project pan items and the rest of my collection. But I can tell you, the longer I've been panning, the more fun and the easier it's gotten. So stick with it. Don't be afraid to switch things up. Have fun with it. That's my number one tip out of all of these things. So I hope this was helpful. I hope that it kind of got you thinking about ways you might like to structure your next project pan, what kinds of products you might want to include, and how to just keep it fun and enjoyable. But definitely share any other tips that you have down below. I'm sure that would be super helpful for everyone else here in the comments. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to link my project pan playlist and past project pan tips videos that I've done if you'd like to check those out. And otherwise, I will see you tomorrow in my next video. Bye.